السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه وخليله، أرسله الله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على دين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا. أما بعد. First and foremost, sorry for the delay. But we're here, alhamdulillah, so we'll take advantage of that. So today's discussion, this will be Women's Intuition, part 3 or episode 3. And during this discussion, we'll be talking about toxic love. Toxic love, knowing the difference between biochemical bonds and standards. Meaning, are you with someone because you are codependent on them, chemically codependent on this person, or are you with this person because they meet your standards? And this concept can apply to Muslims, non-Muslims. So if there are any non-Muslim, guests, ahlan wa sahlan, welcome to our discussion. As you know, that my discussions don't discriminate in terms of race, in terms of religion. Everyone is welcome to, join the discussion. And I think that as you hear the discussion play out, you will realize that anyone can fall victim to this. This is not about race. This is not about religion. This is about relationships. Okay? It's not about religion. It's not about race. It's about relationships. And if you are in a relationship, then the possibility or the likelihood of you being a victim of this or you being the perpetrator of this type of behavior is probable. It's probable just on the basis that you're in a relationship. Just on the basis that you're in a relationship. So it has nothing to do with whether or not you're Muslim, you're not Muslim. A lot of times we tend to think as Muslims that, these type of things don't happen to Muslims, right? They don't happen to Muslims. If you are God-fearing, you fear Allah, you're conscious of God or whatever the case may be, then your life should be perfect. And that's dismissive. That's dismissive of the human element that makes us who we are. How can you say if you feared Allah, this wouldn't happen to you? If you were more conscious of God, then and I mean Muslims as well as Christians do the same thing. They do the same thing. We hammer people, we beat people, we browbeat people, believing that if they, in our own estimation, that if they were more God conscious, or if they were closer to God or they feared Allah in the Islamic language, then, or our jargon as Muslims, if they feared Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this wouldn't happen to them. This wouldn't happen to them. And that's not fair, because you're eliminating the human element that, that makes us susceptible to all of these things, whether you fear God or you don't fear God. All right. So let's talk about love for a second. All right. This is a conversation that is long overdue in the Muslim community. Because we here again, we live in the clouds of, the sunnah, right? The clouds. Right? This is jargon now. All right. Saying, just follow the sunnah or tawheed. These have now become catchphrases. These have become jargon for Muslims to be dismissive of the human element that, that never seems to get addressed in the Muslim community. We never address the human elements of, our, issues. We never address that. We broad brush it with a solution that we believe is the solution to every problem. If they understood Tawheed, then this wouldn't happen to them. Or if they feared Allah, this wouldn't happen to them. And it's so depressing. It's depressing, especially when you hear Islamic leadership using this type of jargon as the solution. You know what I'm saying? As a solution to all of our problems. So if I feared Allah, my life would just be perfect. If I was more conscious of God, then none of these things wouldn't happen to me. You have got to be kidding me. Sometimes, even if you're fearing Allah, you're fearing God and you're conscious of God, you're living a God-conscious lifestyle, sometimes you are still susceptible to these things. Because maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is his wisdom of testing you with these things. So, we can't be dismissive about these type of things. But when it comes to love in the Islamic community, I mean, I think that we're at a deficit as it relates to, conversations and concentration that, has not been placed on the subject of love. We marry, to save ourselves from the hellfire. We marry because, I don't want to do anything haram. We marry for, and love is never part of the equation. Love is never, a part of the, when I counsel couples and I hear some of the atrocious things that went, that go on between some couples, you're saying to yourself, where in the world is the love? Do you guys even love each other? Like, if you loved each other, love would have dictated that you guys don't treat each other like this. It's ridiculous. So, yeah. So love, number one, is an emotion. Love is an emotion that is connected to the heart. And this is women's intuition. So although men are sitting back cheering today, saying, yes, he's getting on the women, sisters, I want you to pay close attention, because what I'm giving you is not me beating you up with your issues. I did that with the brothers. With the women is a little different. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to beat you guys up. All I want to do is hold up a mirror to you to allow you to see yourself in these situations. And I'm trying to do that with as much mercy and compassion that I possibly can. All right? I'm trying to do this with as much compassion and mercy that I possibly can. As Allah says in the Quran, وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى, that men are not like women. We're different. So yeah, when I get on and I start talking about the brothers, yeah, I'm gonna beat them up. Absolutely. I'm gonna beat them up, because as men, we should be able to handle that. But women is a lot different. So for the brothers that are sitting back rooting, saying, yeah, I'm glad that he's dealing with the women's issues, and get him, brother. Nah, it's not like that. When it comes to dealing with the women's issues, we deal with them with compassion and mercy. That the men are not like the women. We're not going to deal with the women the way that we dealt with the men's issues. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm beating up on the sisters. I'm not beating up on you guys, but I am going to hold the mirror up to you. I am going to allow you to see yourself in these relationships. All right. So love is an emotion that is connected to the heart. Understand the connection here. Love is an emotion that has a plug that plugs right into the heart. All right. All of these emotions that we have, they have a direct link to the heart. All right. Love is an emotion that is connected to the heart. The heart of the human being is what animates the emotion of love. The heart is what animates it. It's just an emotion, right? Until it comes in contact with a particular heart, and whether healthy or unhealthy will determine whether that love is actually healthy or unhealthy. Similar to the way that the soul is animated by, or the body is animated by the soul. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam, he was just a body laying on the ground. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blew the soul into Adam. And each part of Adam's body that the soul passed, his body now became animated. All right. To the point where Adam, when the soul reached his waist, it didn't even reach his legs yet. When the soul of the body, because the soul came in from the head, just like when the soul leaves the body, it leaves from the head, which is why when a person is deceased, the eyes roll back in the head, because the Prophet ﷺ said that the eyes follow the soul as it exits the body. So if you ever wondered why, when a person is deceased, the eyes roll back in the head like that, and that is because the eyes follow the soul as it exits the body, and it exits from the top part of the body. It exits from the head, just like the soul entered from the body of Adam from the head. And as the soul began to pass by each part of Adam's body, his body became animated. And the soul, when it reached Adam's waist, Adam sat up and looked at the rest of his body. And he tried to get up, but he couldn't get up because the rest of his body, the soul, had not finished, right? Had not finished entering the rest of his body. And this is why sometimes you wake up from sleep, right? You wake up from sleep abruptly. And although your eyes is open, you can see everything, you're conscious, but you can't move, because when you go to sleep, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes the soul from the body. So sometimes you can't move, even though you are awoke, because the soul has not finished has not finished occupying the rest of the areas of your body that it's supposed to. It's similar to what happens when blood is removed from a particular part of your body. Your hand goes numb. You can't feel it because there's no blood circulating there. And the blood circulation throughout the body is what helps the body to move. And the soul is what animates the body. All right? So the soul animates the body. And the heart animates the emotion of love. All right? You understand the connection here. That just like the soul animates the body, the heart animates the emotion of love. And they say that love is just a word until somebody comes along and gives it meaning. Right? Love is just a word until somebody comes into your life and gives it meaning, animates it. Right? And so the heart can animate love in a positive way or in a negative way. If the heart is negative or has some toxicity in the heart, then obviously the love that is connected to that toxic heart, then the love is going to be toxic. You follow me? And if the love is, is pleasant, if the love is, is decent, then, if the heart is pleasant, the heart is decent, then the love that is connected to the heart will likewise be the same way. All right, so the heart can animate love in a positive way or negative way, healthy or unhealthy. All right, much emphasis is placed on the heart in Islam. If you look at Islamic texts, you'll find so much emphasis placed on the heart. All right, and this is because this is inciting the believer, inciting the person or encouraging the person who believes in God, believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be conscious about the condition of his heart or her heart at all times, considering that most of our statements and actions are predicated on the condition of our hearts. Do you understand? Most of the things we do and we say is predicated on the condition of our heart. If your heart is at a good place, then the things that come out of your mouth are going to be pleasant. If your heart is at a good place, then the actions that come from you and how you interact with other people is going to be pleasant. But if your heart is in a bad place, then usually the statements that come out of your mouth are going to be unpleasant. The actions that you show to other people are going to be unpleasant because the root of your statement and actions is the heart. Allah says in the Quran in Surah number 2, ayah 225. Allah says, لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم ولكن يؤاخذكم بما كسبت قلوبكم والله غفور حليم. Allah says in this verse that Allah does not hold you accountable for al-lagwi, for the unintentional oaths that you take, but Allah holds you accountable for what's in your heart. So sometimes we may utter something and it's unintentional. It's not necessarily connected to the heart. But what we are held accountable is what our hearts, what is coming from our hearts, whether sincerity, insincerity. All right. Showing you that a lot of the things that we do, the origin, the root of it is our hearts. The root of it is our hearts. And so much emphasis in Islam is placed on the condition of the heart, encouraging the believer to be more conscious about the condition of his heart or her heart at all times. At all times. All right? Because most of our statements and actions are predicated on the condition of our heart. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ فِي الْجَسَدِ لَمُضْغَةً إِذَا صَلَحَتْ صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبُ. He said, in the body there is a lump of flesh. So profound. The Prophet ﷺ statement is so profound. He said, in the body there's a lump of flesh. That if that lump of flesh is sound, if it is healthy, then the rest of the body will be healthy. You follow me? In the body there's a lump of flesh. That if that lump of flesh is sound, if it is healthy, then the rest of the body will be healthy. And if that piece of flesh is corrupt and unhealthy, then the rest of the body will be corrupt and unhealthy. And indeed, that lump of flesh is the heart. And so this is very profound because just as the body is connected to the heart, whether healthy or unhealthy, the emotions in the body are also connected to the heart, whether healthy or unhealthy. You understand? So love itself is not toxic. It's the people who embrace it. If you are toxic, then how your love is manifested is going to be toxic. If you are a toxic person and you embrace the concept of love, you embrace the emotion of love, but you're embracing it with a toxic heart, then that is going to manifest in a manner that is toxic. So it's not, although I'm using the term toxic love, right? Unhealthy love. It's not love that is necessarily unhealthy. It's the heart that embraces that love. It is the heart that is animating that love. If that heart is unhealthy, if that heart is toxic, if that heart is, diseased, then everything, every emotion that is connected to that heart will manifest. It will manifest in the same manner. You guys following me? Very important to understand. So when we talk about, I'm ready to go into a relationship, you got to look at the condition of your heart, man. Don't bring somebody into your life, man, and your heart is toxic. Your heart is diseased. Don't bring somebody into, it's not fair. It's not fair for you to bring somebody into your life and your heart is filled with all types of diseases, man. It's not fair to the other person. All right, so this is profound because just as the body is connected to the heart, so are the emotions that are connected to the heart. And just as the body can be unhealthy as a result of an unhealthy heart, like if you have an unhealthy heart, what ends up happening to your body? If your heart is not healthy, it's not pumping blood, right, the way that it's supposed to throughout your body, all right, then your body is not, if your heart is not beating properly, right? Spiritually transmitted diseases. La ilaha illallah. Genius, Sister Anissa. STDs. La ilaha illallah. Genius. Spiritually transmitted diseases. STDs. You are a genius, sister. Whoever you are a freaking genius, man. STDs, spiritually transmitted diseases. Did you hear that? Profound. And we here giving people STDs, man. Physically and spiritually. Physically and spiritually, man, we giving people STDs. Wow. Profound. I need to write that down because I need to go back and revisit that, man. Let me write that down. Wow. Subhanallah. Wow. I need to go back and wrap my head around that, man. Spiritually transmitted diseases. Wow. Okay. So just as the body can be unhealthy as a result of an unhealthy heart physically, right? If your heart is not healthy, it can begin having effects on your body physically. All right. Then likewise, love can also be unhealthy as a result of an unhealthy heart. You guys got the concept. I just want to make sure that you got the concept. That just as the body can be unhealthy as a result of an unhealthy heart, then likewise, love can be unhealthy as a result of an unhealthy heart emotionally. So love becomes toxic as a result of the toxicity of the people who embrace it and don't understand it or misinterpret it or conflate it with lust and desire. And it causes one to exploit real, genuine love for its own selfish agenda and pursuits. All right? Toxic love causes one to gradually lose the ability to recognize behavior within the construct of the relationship that is unhealthy and unacceptable. Here's now we started off in the 3 feet deep pool. Now we're moving down to the deeper end of the pool. All right. Well, the reasons why a heart is toxic, that's a whole other discussion. There are tons of reasons. Sometimes it's, not necessarily the fault of the person, but it's your responsibility to recognize that if you're in and out of different relationships and you seeing the same pattern of behavior, then, you should yield to common sense. You should yield to just good old-fashioned common sense that there's a pattern of behavior with me in every single relationship I go into. All right. Every relationship I go into, I'm seeing the same behaviors, and you can't keep blaming it on the men that you are marrying. And even if the men are the ones that are, bringing this behavior out of you, you are choosing these men. You are choosing these same men. So some of that responsibility has to be on you. You cannot keep saying, it's the brother that I married, the man that I'm with. But you chose him. He didn't just pick you up off the street. He didn't grab you out of out of a bag of women and just select you and just make you his girl, make you his wife. You had to consent to that. So there has to be some level of responsibility on your part. And if you keep seeing the same pattern of behaviors over and over manifest in every single relationship, at some point you have to yield to good old fashioned common sense and saying, you know what? Maybe it's me. Maybe I need to sit down with myself and have some serious conversations with myself. But you have some people who, don't understand love, or they misinterpret love, or they conflate love with lust and desire. And it causes them to be, to exploit real love, for its own selfish agenda. Toxic love causes one to gradually lose the ability to recognize behavior within the construct of marriage or within the construct of a relationship that is unhealthy and unacceptable. What are some of these behaviors that are going on in some relationships that are unhealthy, unacceptable by any standards, but you can't even recognize it because you're so detached. You're so detached. You lose touch with the concept of healthy interaction between man and woman or woman and man, and this could be physical or psychological. An example of this was captured in the Quran. So now I'm going to give you the basis, the foundation for the toxic love. All right. I gave you the concept. I tried to drive the concept home as much as I could. Now I'm going to give you the basis of the concept from our religion, from the Quran. And this is the blueprint that I follow every single time. No one can say, well, he didn't give us any dalil, he didn't give us any evidence. I give you the concept first. I make sure that you understand, you grasp the concept, you understand the concept. And then I give you something from the Quran and the Sunnah that is a basis for that particular concept. So, toxic love causes one to gradually lose the ability to recognize behavior within the construct of the relationship that is unhealthy and unacceptable. You lose touch with the concept of healthy interaction between two distinct genders in a relationship, and this could be physical or psychological. Physical or psychological. An example of this was captured in the Quran in a story of a man who did not see this attraction coming. He never could have fathomed that this woman would have desired him in that manner. The woman who raised Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam in her home after taking him in as a slave. Right? If you go back to the story of Prophet Yusuf, Prophet Joseph, for those of you who are Christian who are listening, Prophet Joseph, right? The woman who raised Prophet Yusuf in her home after taking him in as a slave, the likelihood of a woman of her stature, she was the wife of the Aziz, wife of the king of Egypt. The leader, like she was his wife. So we're talking about a woman from the upper echelons of society. And the likelihood of her desiring a servant boy was unheard of. But when love is toxic, it does not recognize the normal boundaries that healthy love usually yields to. You understand? When love is toxic, it does not yield to the boundaries that normal, healthy love yields to. So you are going, and everybody else can see how lost you are in this relationship. Everybody can see it but you. Everybody. And your spouse probably doesn't want to see it because they benefit from that. All right. As I said earlier, that when women are in toxic relationships, they're usually married to toxic men themselves. Narcissists, sociopaths. Yeah, absolutely. You attract those type of men because you are connected to them chemically. It is a chemical connection, biochemical connection, almost like a person who is addicted to a drug. and you know the drug is hurting you, destroying your body, destroying your mind, but you are codependent on that drug. You can't separate. Women are connected to men in unhealthy relationships in the same exact manner. In the same manner. You know he's unhealthy for you, but you are unhealthy, so you guys actually need each other. Yeah, you guys actually need each other. Absolutely. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah number 12, ayat 23, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَرَاوَدَتْهُ الَّتِي هُوَ فِي بَيْتِهَا عَنْ نَفْسِهِ وَغَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابِ وَقَالَتْ هَيْتَ لَكَ قَالَ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ رَبِّي أَحْسَنَ مَثْوَايَ إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capturing this incident that happened between Yusuf when he reached the age of puberty, when he reached the age of a young man, and he gets caught in the room with the wife of the Aziz, the wife of the leader of Egypt during that time. And she's desiring him. She catches him in the room, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَرَاوَدَتْهُ الَّتِي هُوَ فِي بَيْتِهَا. And the woman in whose home Yusuf was raised desired him for herself. وَغَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابِ. And she locked the door. Trapped him in the room, locked the door. وَقَالَتْ هَيْتَ لَكَ. And she said, come here. And Yusuf responded to her, قَالَ رَبِّي قَالَ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ. Allah forbid that I would ever do something like this. إِنَّهُ رَبِّي أَحْسَنَ مَثْوَايَ. Your husband raised me. And he used the word Lord because in that time, using Lord was like a person of leadership. My Lord, right? This is old English. This is old language. They would refer to each other as lords, showing, authority, showing position of authority, right? As well as showing their own inferiority as well. Because when you call someone Lord, that shows that you know your place. Absolutely. So he said, Innahu Rabbi ahsana mathwaya. He said, my Lord raised me. Meaning your husband raised me. Ma'adallah, Allah forbid for me to do something like this. Why? Because Yusuf was not compromised. So he was able to recognize that this is unhealthy. While she, on the other hand, she couldn't recognize that a woman of your stature desiring a slave boy, she couldn't recognize that her behavior was unhealthy. Because this was toxic love, meaning lust, desire, not real love. All right? He said, إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. He said, those who are oppressive will never be successful. Those who engage in behaviors like this will never be successful. She didn't yield to the fact that she was the wife of the Aziz, desiring her slave boy, nor did she consider the fact that this was being done in her husband's home, nor did she consider the fact that she raised Yusuf, so there should have been a more maternal relationship, a more parent-child relationship, instead of a woman desiring, for sexual intimacy, right? Desiring her slave boy, all right? And this is what Yusuf's statement responded to. This is what it referred to. He said, Innahu Rabbi ahsana mathwaya. He said, I can't do this. Allah forbid. God forbid I could do something like this. He was able to recognize that this was an unhealthy exchange rooted in toxicity. Yusuf saw it from the very beginning. Now, if a person is just as sick as that person, they're going to engage in that behavior and not thinking about the consequences, not thinking about everything that's going to happen because both of you are sick. Both of you are sick. But when you have one person who is sick, one person who is toxic, and the other person is healthy, then the other person that is toxic is going to stick a straw in the healthy person and drain all of the energy out of you. Absolutely. And this is the level of emotional and relational treachery that will never end in anything admirable. He said, Innahu la yuflihu al-zalimun. He said, those who engage in these type of behaviors will never be successful. You go and sleep with somebody else's wife. Do you think that you are going to ride off into the sunset without any consequences? You sleep with somebody's husband, as this was the first, conversation that I had with you sisters. And you're doing it under the guise of, I'm thinking about polygyny. You're not thinking about polygyny. You're thinking about having your cake and eating it too. You're thinking about having your cake and eating it too. You see a married man, you know that polygyny is a part of our religion. So you, in the event that you get caught out there, I'm going to throw polygyny out there as the cushion. But in fact, you wasn't desiring polygyny, man. You wasn't desiring polygyny. You was desiring the man. Some women marry into polygyny. They don't want polygyny. They don't want to be married in polygyny. They just want the man. They could care less about his family. They could care less about his children. They could care less about the foundation which she is marrying into. All she wants is him. All she wants is him. And so much like anything toxic, any toxic situation, the person cannot fathom their degree of toxicity until it reaches unimaginable levels. When she desired Yusuf and locked the door, that didn't just happen right then and there. That was going on for some time. There was a desire for him, over some time. You're watching the person, you're looking at the person, Shaitan is whispering to you, you're entertaining thoughts. And then eventually your toxicity takes you to unimaginable levels. So she didn't just desire Yusuf in that moment. That didn't happen. There was a process behind that. There was a process behind that. All right. Sometimes we only see it when the fit hit the shan, when everything just kind of, when you do the unthinkable, then it's like, wow, then you didn't realize that you've actually gone that far. All right. Toxic love causes one to gradually lose the ability to recognize behavior that is unhealthy. Even after her husband walked in and caught them in the room together, she lied. And she said Yusuf was the one that desired me, trying to cover up for herself. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاسْتَبَقَ الْبَابَ وَقَدَّتْ قَمِيصَهُ مِنْ دُبُرٍ وَأَلْفَ يَا سَيِّدَهَا لَدَى الْبَابِ. That they both ran to the door, and then when they opened the door, they found her husband standing right there. And then what does she say? قالت ما جزاء من أراد بأهلك سوءا إلا أن يسجن أو عذاب أليم. She turns to her husband and says, what is the reward for someone who desires your wife except being put in prison or a severe punishment? And then Yusuf says, هي راودتني عن نفسي. That no, she was the one that desired me. She's the one that desired me. And then finally, when they realized that the woman was the one who desired, and how did they do that? They looked at his shirt. His shirt was ripped. And they said, well, if his shirt is ripped from the front, then she's telling the truth and he's the liar, because that means that he ripped his shirt and he desired her. He said, but if his shirt is ripped from behind, then she is the liar and he's telling the truth. And when they looked at Yusuf's shirt, they saw that his shirt was ripped from the back. Yusuf couldn't rip his shirt from the back. So the woman grabbed him as he tried to get to the door. And then what did the husband say to his wife? Out of embarrassment. He said out of embarrassment to his wife, he said, Yusuf a'rid an hada. Yusuf, don't say anything to the court. Don't say anything to anyone else about this incident. Out of embarrassment, because it's now like you as the Lord, you as the king of Egypt, you don't have control over your own wife. And of course, when we're talking about monarchies and kingdoms and things like this, a king would never expose that, because then he would look as less of a man. So he told Yusuf, Yusuf a'rad an hada. Yusuf, turn away from this. Don't say nothing about this. And then he turned to his wife and he said, "Wastaghfiri li dhanbiki innaki kunti min al-khati'in." And seek forgiveness for your sin, because you were wrong. You were wrong. All right. So everyone else was aware that she could no longer recognize that her behavior was unbecoming, simply because the toxicity of her lust, of her love for Yusuf. And it caused her to ignore boundaries that healthy love would have normally yielded to. When you are in a healthy love relationship, there are certain things that you just don't tolerate. You don't tolerate mental abuse. You don't tolerate psychological abuse. You don't tolerate physical abuse, because you are sitting from a place of privilege. You are still healthy. You are not compromised. You don't tolerate cheating. You don't tolerate infidelity. You don't tolerate that because you have not been compromised. But when you have been compromised, guess what? You tolerate it all. In some instances, you might even encourage it. Absolutely. You might even encourage it, right? You become like a masochist, right? You know what a masochist is? This is a person who derives gratification out of pain. So you are so mentally and psychologically warped that you actually believe that when your husband inflicts pain on you, that is an indication that he loves you. There's no more. That is the pinnacle of toxicity. That is the pinnacle of toxicity. You become like a masochist, that you derive gratification out of pain, and you encourage the pain. You have women who will suggest that their husband just go and satisfy his desires, but don't take on a second wife. You can go and, I'm giving you a whole pass. I'm giving you a pass to go and satisfy your desires, but I can't handle polygyny. Wallahi, I've counseled couples where a woman has suggested to her husband, I don't care if you go and have a one-night fling with a side piece, but I can't deal with polygyny. Don't marry no woman and bring another woman into my relationship. Absolutely. When I was on the Dean show, right? I was on the Dean show with Eddie talking about my book, The Revolution of Love. And he played a clip from the Breakfast Club where Mary J. Blige said to her husband she wanted to be with him so bad. That is the pinnacle. That is the poster child for a toxic relationship. Go back and look at that interview of Mary J. Blige on the Breakfast Club on YouTube. She said, I would have been willing to let my husband have a side piece. I would have been willing to do that. And Charlamagne is just looking at her like, but you're Mary J. Blige. How could you let yourself, get to that point? You understand what I'm saying? Like, how could you let yourself get to that point? Toxic, man. Toxic. And I'm not talking about the details of how a person gets to that point, how they get to the point where they become toxic. All right. That's a whole other discussion. What I'm talking about is how that manifests in the relationship. Right? Absolutely, Sister Majida. Absolutely. The idea that another woman is as good as I am to be his wife. But the side chick one night stand can lead to more damage than anything. Well, when you're toxic, you don't recognize the normal boundaries that a normal, healthy love relationship recognizes. If the woman was sane and if there was some sanity in her love, she would never accept that. But when you are codependent on this person, as she said, Mary J. Blige said in that interview, she said, I would have done anything to stay with him. That's toxic. That is toxic. She said, I would have done anything to stay with him. There was a codependency there. She didn't believe that she could separate from him and be okay. Right? And Charlamagne asked her, are you even capable of being in a healthy relationship? Because this is a pattern with her. They've interviewed her before. We followed, Mary J. Blige's life. For those of us who are aware of our cultural surroundings, followed her different relationships. And every relationship you go into, you do the same exact thing. You do the same exact thing. All right? All right. So toxic love causes one to gradually, everyone else was aware that this woman could no longer recognize that her behavior was unbecoming simply because of the toxicity of her love for Yusuf. It caused her to ignore boundaries that healthy love would have usually yielded to. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, now they're talking about all of the other women in the community now being aware of her desire for Yusuf. And they're looking at her like, woman, you have lost your mind. You have lost your mind. You are desiring a slave boy. You have lost your mind. But these are the levels that toxic love can take you to. وقال نسوة في المدينة امرأة العزيز تراود فتاها عن نفسه قد شغفها حبا إنا لنراها في ضلال مبين. And the women of the city, they said, the wife of the Aziz. Now they're talking about her behind her back. Because they recognize this woman is gone. She's gone. And the women in the city began to talk. قال نسوة في المدينة. And the women in the city said, امرأة العزيز, the wife of the king desires her slave boy. قد شغفها حب. She is now driven by pure lust. قَدْ شَغَفَهَا حُبًّا. That her love, Allah used the word love, شَغَفَهَا حُبًّا. Her love has now become toxic. إِنَّا لَنَرَاهَا فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. We see her to be clearly astray. Clearly astray. Everybody else can see it, but you. Everybody else can see that you have lost your mind in this relationship. Everybody can see it, but you. That's how far you've gone. That in a toxic love relationship, you cannot recognize the normal boundaries of a healthy relationship anymore. And it is important to understand the correct context of love, or we subject ourselves to unhealthy relationships that will ultimately contribute to our own psycho-spiritual demise. Listen to this statement by Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala. Ibn al-Qayyim, he said, "Man ahabba shay'in ghayra Allah udhiba bihi thalatha marrat." Ibn al-Qayyim said, whoever loves something or someone more than Allah or other than Allah, with the type of love that you should love Allah with, right? Unconditional love is only for Allah. Ibrahim alayhi salam, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that if I was going to take anyone as an intimate friend, then I would take Abu Bakr as an intimate friend. But Allah has already chosen me and taken me as an intimate friend, so I suffice myself with the brotherhood of Islam and our love for one another as brothers. That's it. That's it. This is the Prophet ﷺ statement, because his love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is surah number 12 in the Quran, surah to Yusuf. Surah number 12 in the Quran, surah to Yusuf, and the ayah starts at ayah 23. From 23 all the way down to about 26. And Yusuf was actually put in jail because he refused the request of this woman. He was actually put in jail because toxic people, when they can't control you, then they control how people see you. You understand? She told Yusuf if he did not do what she commanded him to do, then she was going to have him put in prison and lie on him, right? And this is what toxic people do. If they can't control you, then they're going to control how other people see you. They're going to lie on you. They're going to tarnish your honor. They're going to defame you, right? They're going to malign you. They're going to do all of these things. You understand? When a toxic person can't control you, then they control how other people see you. So when a man goes into a relationship with a toxic woman and he says, I don't want to be with you anymore, then guess what happens? No, you don't get to walk away from that. You don't get to walk away from that. And I'm going to go tell everybody, and we see this play out over and over again, even in the Islamic community. We see this play out, man. We see it play out very clearly. Brother didn't do anything wrong. All the brother just realized that you two weren't compatible and he no longer wanted to be with you, but you were not letting that go. You were not going to let that go. You're going to make sure you destroy every single part of him. And Allah forbid if there's any children involved. Allah forbid. And now we're going to use the children to make your life miserable. Simply because I don't want to be with you. That's my only crime. The only crime the man made was that he no longer wanted to be with you. And you are not going to let that happen, right? Because no one divorces me. No one puts me out of the relationship. I control the relationship, right? This is that toxic love, man. Toxic. And so now that I can no longer control you because you're leaving, I'm going to control how people see you. What jazak, brother Luqman? Hayakallah. I'm going to control how people see you. So, Ibn al-Qayyim, listen to the statement. Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, "Man ahabba shay'in ghayra Allah, udhiba bihi thalatha marrat." Ibn al-Qayyim said, whoever loves something or someone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he will be punished with that thing 3 times. Pay attention. Someone asks, well, how do we avoid that? You put Allah first. You put God first. And every other love that you have for every other human being is filtered through your love of God, your love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's how you avoid that. And of course, then it's also being moderate with your emotions, learning how to temper your emotions. All right. But first and foremost, you cannot love another human being. You cannot love another object or love anything more or equal to the way that you're supposed to love God. Period. Allah says in the Quran, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُم كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. That they are from amongst mankind, those who love their idols, love their partners, love these things as much as they love Allah. Then Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. But those who believe, they love God more. They love Allah more. As much as you love your spouse, I love God more. As much as you love your car, I love Allah more. Like, you have to put God at the center of your love, and your love for everything and everyone else is filtered through your love of God. That is how you help to avoid ending up in situations like this. And this happens a lot of times, even with people who newly convert to Islam, and they get married almost immediately after they convert. You are trying to establish a love relationship with another human being, and you still have not even made the full connection with God. Nobody who is a new convert to Islam, and I mean, obviously there are different strokes for different folks. Some people were already in a relationship, and then, accepting Islam is just like the icing on the cake, and they want to go ahead and get married. That's a different situation. I'm talking about somebody who clearly comes into Islam, and then people start to introduce to you the concept of marriage, and now your entire paradigm shifts from, let me reestablish a connection with God. I've been so separated from God for so many years, lonely out in this world, separated from God. And then you embrace Islam, and now you put God to the side, and your paradigm shifts to, now I want to get married, and I want to be in love, and I want to be a part of this, but you haven't even connected with God yet. You haven't even connected with God yet. So now in your relationship, much like two people who get married and have a child at the very beginning stages of their marriage, you haven't even got a chance to know the person. And now there's a child involved in the marriage. And now you put all of your energy into this child and very little energy into your relationship. And some people get married and are not actually husband and wife until 20, 30 years after the child is gone. Now you can reconnect with your spouse, and you pick up where you started 20, 30 years ago, because you had children in the relationship so early. And the same thing happens with a sister or a brother who becomes Muslim, and then right after they become Muslim, they get married. So now you got layers of responsibilities, emotionally, spiritually, on so many different levels. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has only given the human being one heart. You only have one heart, and you're trying to do all of these things with one heart. Your spouse is calling for your emotional attention. Your Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling for you to, for spiritual devotion. And then you find yourself being tugged from so many different angles until you become so overwhelmed. You're not giving Allah his rights, and you're not giving your spouse their rights. Stop, man. Stop doing this to yourself, man. You don't have to do this to yourself. Brothers and sisters, you don't have to do this to yourself. But to establish a connection with another human being when you have not yet acquainted yourself with God, you are setting yourself up for failure. If you are establishing the connection with another human being and you have yet to establish a connection with God, then you are setting yourself up for failure. They're calling there, Dan. Give me a second. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. إله إلا الله اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة الصلاة آت محمد والصيلة والفضيلة وبعثه اللهم مقاما محمودا الذي وعدت إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. Okay, so let's make use of the time before they call the iqama, inshallah ta'ala. So Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that anyone who loves something, man ahabba shay'in ghayr Allah, whoever loves something other than Allah, udhiba bihi thalatha marrat, he will be punished with that thing for three times, on 3 occasions. Fi hadhihi ad-dar, in this life. فَهُوَ يُعَذَّبْ بِهِ قَبْلَ حُصُولِهِ, you will be punished with that thing before you actually get it. You will be punished with that thing before you actually get it. حَتَّى يَحْصُلْ, until you actually get it. You will be punished. And this breeds anxiety because the fear is that I'm never going to get it. I'm not going to get it. And then when and that's a punishment. If you are having anxiety over trying to, achieve something or attain something, that is you being punished. Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants something good for you, He makes it easy for you to get it. There's no anxiety. There's no fear of not getting it. There's no anxiety attached to that. There's ease. If I get it, I get it. Alhamdulillah. If I don't get it, I don't get it. That's how you know something is being pursued in a healthy way. How many women have 1 or 2 sit downs with a brother and you're having anxiety attacks, panic attacks, wondering if this guy is really going to propose to you? Is he really going to marry you? And you're sitting there sweating, you're sitting there worried, you're sitting there having anxiety attacks. That's part of your punishment because you covet this thing. You love this thing. You desire this thing so much. And you're being punished with it even before you get it. And you don't even realize it. You're being punished and before you even get it. He said, حَتَّى يَحْصُلْ, until you actually get it. He said, فَإِذَا حَصَلَ عُذِّبَ بِهِ حَالَ حُصُولِهِ, that, and then when you finally get the thing, then you're going to be punished after you get it. And that is بِالْخَوْفِ مِنْ سَلَبِهِ وَفَوَاتِهِ. And you will be punished after you get it because now you're being punished with the fear of losing it. The fear of losing it. Same thing we said with Mary J. Blige. She said, I would have done anything to keep him. You'll do anything. You just don't want to lose him. You feel like you are codependent on this man. You have women who believe that I'm nothing if this man leaves me. That's toxic, man. To believe that you as an individual, as a human being, are nothing without this man in your life. I mean, subhanallah al-azim, for a Muslim to adopt this type of belief. And you have many women who believe that I am nothing. If this man leaves me, I am nothing. If this man leaves me, I am nothing. I have nothing. A man leaving your life possibly could break your heart, but it shouldn't break your spirit. A man leaving your life could possibly break your heart. A man leaving your life should never break your spirit. Break you down to your lowest molecule. Are you serious? I'm nothing without him. All right? You'll be punished after you get it, you'll be punished by the fear of losing it. That anxiety, that fear of losing the thing. He said, فَإِذَا سَلَبَهُ اشْتَدَّ عَلَيْهِ عَذَابَهُ فَهَذِهِ ثَلَاثُ أَنْوَاعٍ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ فِي هَذِهِ الدَّارِ. He said, and then finally, when the thing is snatched away from you, when the thing is taken away from you, then your punishment is even exacerbated even more. He said, and these are 3 punishments that come to a person for loving something or someone more than you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You guys understand? You guys understand? That if you love something or someone more than Allah or other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will be punished with that thing. And those of us who have experienced this, you know exactly. I, as a non-Muslim, experienced this, and I'm only realizing now where it came from. You ever desired something so much, right? You want a car. It happens when we want a car, nice vehicle. And, I'm willing to go borrow money from this person, borrow money from that person. And, you become anxious. You're in fear because you want it so bad. And you keep going back to the lot. And you're like, did you sell the car yet? No, don't sell it. I'm going to get the money. Let me give you a down payment. The guy's like, nah, you got to come with this amount. So you go to this person. You're getting a sign, or you're getting somebody to sign. You're being punished even before you get it. Then after you get it, you're in fear of losing it. So now you go buy the bar to lock the steering wheel so no one steals it. You're peeking out the window at night, making sure that the car is still there, especially if you lived in Newark, New Jersey, right? Home of the stolen cars, right? You're in fear of it being stolen. You're in fear of it being crashed. You come outside every morning. You come out to get in your car. You're checking to make sure ain't no scratches on it. No, you're getting it washed every day. You're in fear of losing it. And then finally you end up totaling the car and your whole world comes crumbling down. Yeah. You were punished. You were punished 3 times and you didn't even realize it. Okay? And so when toxic love unites, when 2 people are united, 2 individuals are united, and love is toxic between them, it becomes like a parasite of the human spirit. It uses another person's weakened spirit to thrive and survive. So when you have one person who is toxic, in a toxic relationship, the other person may not necessarily be to that degree, but now it becomes a parasite of the human spirit. You begin to now use the other person's weakened spirit to thrive and survive. It is an emotional cancer. An emotional cancer that destroys the healthy parts of a person until there is nothing left except an empty shell. Once a person is deeply involved in a toxic relationship, they lose touch with what a real healthy relationship looks like. And they become conditioned because what they've experienced might have felt like it was love, even though it was not. So now there's a conditioning process. So every person that comes into your life, they get the same treatment because now you have been conditioned to believe that this is actually a love relationship when in fact you're toxic from top to bottom. You are toxic from top to bottom. All right. And we can become addicted to the highs and lows of a dangerous toxic relationship in a way that makes breaking away from the person similar to a recovering addict getting off of destructive drugs. This is why we are taught in Islam to have moderation with our emotions. This is, another piece in terms of the solutions to this. All right. A good book, John Baines, The Science of Love. MashaAllah. Thanks for sharing that with us. Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, Habib habibaka hawnin ma asa an yakun baghidaka yawmin ma. Wa abghid baghidaka hawnin ma asa an yakun habibaka yawmin ma. Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, love the person you love in moderation. Habib habibaka hawnin ma. Right? Love the person you love in moderation. Asa an yakun baghidaka yawmin ma, because the person that you love may one day have to be the one that you hate. There has to be moderation with our emotions. And some of us, we swing like a pendulum when it comes to our emotions. We swing like a pendulum when it comes to our emotions. We love you. We are deeply in love with you. And when we hate you to the highest level of hate. Right? And we should be neither this or that. We should be right there in the middle. Our religion teaches us to be moderate, even with our emotions. He said, love the person you love in moderation because the one that you love may one day have to be the one that you hate. Hate the person that you hate because the one that you hate may one day have to be the one that you love. So you're leaving room that perhaps this person that I hate so much, I shouldn't hate that person to that degree, because what if that person comes to me and apologizes? Now that puts me in an awkward situation because I've hated this person to such an extreme, which it was haram for me to do. I've hated this person to such an extreme that now when the person comes to apologize, I can't accept the apology. I can't accept it. Because I've gone to such extreme. And then when you love the person, you love them with such extreme that when the person does something wrong, you don't even see anything wrong with what they're doing anymore, because your love for them has become so exaggerated that you can't see the person doing anything wrong. There's nothing wrong. They have done nothing wrong in your eyes. So this is another piece, and to make sure that we regulate, we regulate our emotions. And that start with, loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, loving his messenger, the way that we are supposed to love them, and let whatever residual love that is left over for our family members, our relatives, and then it trickles down to our children, our spouses. And then, by the time it gets to friends, friends are getting, just the bare minimum of love. But we don't let that trickle down process happen. Sometimes it goes from we love our friends and our, right? And then we love them to such a degree that, we have very little love for our children, very little love for our spouse, very little love for the messenger of Allah, and very little love for God. So we let our love, start from friends and then work its way down. When in fact it should start with God, with the messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahaba, then your family members, your children, your spouse, and then friends and associates. But we go the other way. So, it's important that, we regulate our love to the people that is deserving of our love first and foremost. We regulate our love to the people. You have Muslims today who love non-Muslims more than they love their own Muslim brothers. We'll bend over backwards for them. We'll do everything. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't, have love for your relatives or whatever the case may be, but I'm talking about friends. We have non-Muslim friends that many of us were cool with before we became Muslim, and we love them beyond measure. But then when it comes to your brothers and sisters in Islam, it's nothing. You treat them like they're non-Muslims. Majoring in the minor, minoring in the major. Here we go. Last piece I want to talk about is rejection and affection. How this plays out, this toxic love plays out inside the marriage, inside the relationship. Rejection and affection often go hand in hand in a toxic relationship. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that controls the pleasure center of our brains, which creates the reward circuits, which then generates automatic associations in our brains that link our spouses with pleasure or survival. Now, when you see this person, your dopamine levels begin to increase, right? And so every time you see this person, you are associating this person with pleasure, or you're associating this person with survival, meaning I can't live without this person, right? However, dopamine flows more readily in the brain when there is an intermittent reinforcement, meaning there's no consistent, pleasure. There is I'm here 1 minute, I'm not there the next minute. And some men function better in polygyny than monogamy because of this. Right? If a man is around one woman all the time, eventually he gets tired of that woman. But when there is some intermittent reinforcement, meaning the schedule is not, all the time, that I see her, for a couple of days and then I'm gone, and then when I come back to her, that is, that pleasure is, has now been, enhanced. And the inability of a toxic partner to give you what you need leaves one desiring the good times, and thus we continue to invest in the relationship. Similar to a gambler at a slot machine, right? Think if you're thinking about a woman who I could never understand for the life of me as I was growing up why women stay with the men that treat them the worst. And the guys that are actually good men, right? They get the worst type of treatment. I could never understand that. Now I understand why. Because we desire what we can't have. We want what we can't have. So a woman would much rather stay with a man that treats her like crap rather than a man who treats her good. Because a man who treats her good, eventually the consistency of treating her good, she is going to get tired of that. She's going to get tired of that, right? So all of the women who say, I want a good man, you don't want a good man. Because the consistency of a good man in your life, you're going to eventually get tired of him. If you're toxic, you're going to get tired of him. But when a man treats you like crap and then he treats you good, right? You're like a person, like a gambler at a slot machine, right? You go to the slot machine, you hope that you're going to get the gain from that slot machine, and the inevitable losses of such a risky investment it's not a big deal. You're willing to risk it all for what you believe you're going to get. So a woman will stay in a relationship, a toxic relationship with a man who is, treating you like crap because you're anticipating that this man at some point is going to treat me right. Just like a person at a slot machine. right? You keep putting quarter after quarter after quarter, the penny slots, because you're seeing the change at the bottom. You're like, if I can just get this one coin to land right there, I'm going to get all of this. So you're willing to risk all of the pain and the drama that the man puts you through because of the perceived gain that you might get at the end of that. Toxic, man. Sick. It is a sick situation. And the whole while everybody else is sitting back saying to you, why are you still with him? Because I know he's a good man. I know he has a lot of good with him. I'm going to get the good out of him, but I'm going to tolerate all getting my behind beat, getting slapped, getting emotionally abused, psychologically abused. I'm going to tolerate all of it out of what I perceive I'm going to gain at the end of this. Sick, man. Meanwhile, you have, the good brother over here that's willing to, risk it all to give you a good life, but you don't want him. You don't want him because the consistency of being good to you, it doesn't trigger the dopamine. It doesn't trigger the dopamine in your brain. It doesn't trigger it. He doesn't do it for you. You get tired of that very quickly. It's not all women. I'm talking about those in a toxic relationship. Those who suffer from toxic love. That's who I'm talking about. I'm talking about a specific type of woman. Not all women. So next time you think about somebody at a slot machine, right? You think a person sitting in front of this machine, dropping quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter, not realizing that you are losing all of, right? Security is mundane for a toxic person. Absolutely. They're not even thinking about, they're willing to risk the security for what they believe they're going to get on the other end. They're willing to risk it all. Absolutely. And the good brother sitting over here like, well, why are you still with him? He treats you like crap. Why do you tolerate this guy? Yeah. Emotionally unavailable men are usually masters. Pay attention to this, sisters. Emotionally unavailable men are usually masters at intermittent reinforcement. They give you a little bit here, a little bit there. They're emotionally detached from the relationship. All right. But they're good at giving you the intermittent reinforcement. When you don't know the next time you're going to see someone or you're unable to predict their next move, that person becomes more alluring to our brain. Our brains become masochists, right? Deriving our gratification from pain. Seeking the very people that hurt us. We go after them. We seek the people that hurt us. Right? So the higher the emotional unavailability of the husband, the more exciting he is to the woman who is in this toxic love relationship. So this is why some people, they come for counseling. Women, they come for counseling. You don't really want counseling. You just want somebody that you can pay to listen to your problems. You don't want counseling. You just figure I'm going to pay you some money so you can listen to my problems because you don't want a solution to your problem. Because you are the problem. You don't want a solution to your problem because you are the problem. Facts. You are the problem. Yeah. So the higher the emotional unavailability of the husband, the more exciting he is to you. Research has shown that when oxytocin, another chemical in the body, is involved, betrayal does not necessarily have an effect on how much a person continues to invest in the person who betrayed them. So the deception of your spouse doesn't derail you from trusting him. This is why we never understand why this woman chooses to stay in a relationship with this man, knowing the pain that he causes her. In our minds, we think just leaving him is the solution to her problem, not realizing how enmeshed, how emotionally enmeshed she is, chemically enmeshed she is with this individual. And this type of toxicity attracts narcissists and pathologically self-centered individuals. We can never understand it. But now you have just a brief understanding of why these situations end up like this, man. You know, the narcissist needs the woman who is biochemically dependent. Why? Why does a woman like this attract self-centered, pathologically self-centered individuals and narcissists? Why does a woman like this attract this type of person? Why? Periscope, I'm going to turn you guys off so I can turn on the, we might have, already filtered out, because usually people who are not here to listen to benefit, once they realize they can't comment, they get on and they leave. So me turning off the comments on Periscope is a way of filtering out those who are here for benefit and those who are here, just to, and alhamdulillah, I have the blocking mechanism, so I will block. But I'm going to turn you off and start you back up, inshallah.